Lucas, thanks for hopping on today. We're stealing 5 minutes of your time because something big just came across the wire. Tell us a little bit about VanEck filing the S-1 for the VanEck JitoSOL Spot ETF. What is that? Can you explain that to your average DGen? What does that mean?
Yeah, this is super exciting for Jito, Solana, and the entire ETF industry. This is, as far as I know, the first LST-based ETF. And ultimately, what this means is uh, users will be able to get access to a 100% staked, 100% Jito Sol ETF, which will offer users, it's essentially the best product that you can make. So users will get access to the highest yielding product. They'll get access to Sol. You can hold this and not have to worry about custody. And we're super excited about this. I think it will unlock a lot of interesting trading strategies for institutions as well.
Yeah, can you talk a little bit more about why specifically an LST relative to like a single validator, staker, or something like that is especially useful in these products?
Yeah.
What unique benefits is this going to offer the sort of mom and pop investors? My granddad who can now go on to his brokerage and buy this thing.
Yeah. With a 100% staked Sol ETF that uses Jito Sol, it is essentially the highest yielding ETF that you can get through Solana. So the staking yield in Solana today is roughly 7 to 8%. And if you compare that to like just a normal Solana ETF that's not staked, you're missing out on a lot of the yield. And then the Jito Sol ETF will spread its stake across a wide variety of validators. So this can be just normal, like single person businesses to institutions that run validators. So it really helps support a lot of validators on the network. It spreads stake across these validators to minimize the risk of downtime or anything like that created by a single validator. And it just enables the ETF and the people that are holding the ETF to actually participate in the consensus and like just participate in the network in general. So they will earn a combination of the natural kind of inflation from the network. So the Solana network is creating new tokens to incentivize people to stake. So they earn a percentage of that. And then they earn a percentage of the transaction fees and the activity on the network. So as we see Solana advancing many years into the future, we expect that those fees will rapidly increase, which should result in a nice yield compared to a unstaked Sol ETF.
Yeah, awesome. Talk to me a little bit about the process of how we got here. I know, new administration inauguration is in January. In February, you were one of the first representatives of the industry to go in and meet with the SEC.
Yeah.
But in addition to that, big moment, there's been a lot of stuff happening a little bit more behind the scenes, a lot of education, a lot of outreach. Talk about that process and sort of how we managed to get to this point today.
Yeah. So yeah, we started planning this kind of in like December or January, and I am just one very small piece of this. There are many people that have kind of participated in this both at Jito and in other organizations. But yeah, we brought on Thomas. Spent like over 20 years at Jane Street, working a lot on ETF products to help lead this effort. And he's the Jito Foundation Chief Commercial Officer. And from there, we felt that there was a few potential roadblocks to getting Jito Sol into an ETF and just into more institutional hands. So we put together a plan, and that plan culminated in a few things. One is we were the first industry company to go meet with the SEC Crypto Task Force back in, I think it was February. So it was some representatives from Jito and Multicoin that went and met with the SEC Crypto Task Force, explained to them what is Solana, how does it work, how does it kind of differ in certain ways to other blockchains and digital assets that they're familiar with. And a lot of the conversation focused on liquid staking tokens there. So a lot of education going on there. Um, the next kind of roadblock is like, is JitoSOL security? We think it's not. And together with the Jito Labs and the Jito Foundation, put together a report that went over basically how JitoSOL is not a security. You can look this up. It's publicly viewable for anyone if you just Google the JitoSOL Securities Classification Report. So that kind of got another roadblock through. We also put out a report on taxes. So there's a lot of questions on liquid staking taxes, and put out a report on that. And then we started to kind of see some stuff trickle in from the SEC. Obviously, they're thinking a lot about crypto right now, and Hester has been very outspoken on crypto and how they see crypto playing a role in the future of finance, and also the SEC's role within that. So there was a report from the SEC on staking, and then we put out a report on liquid staking and how it should be allowed in ETPs. And like I think a few weeks ago in early August, there was a statement from the SEC on liquid staking and how it's not a security. So this is pretty exciting to see, and like these roadblocks are kind of coming down, and this is going to unlock a lot of inflows into liquid staking protocols across a variety of networks, but especially Jito, and with the introduction of this JitoSOL ETF.
Yeah, I think that's the interesting thing about it is that's really only one work stream of this, right? Like getting all of the regulatory roadblocks out of the way. I think on
Mm-hmm.
the sort of back end, there's a lot of plumbing when it comes to custody. What exchange platform is VanEck going to be using to sort of swap between and in and out of these assets? There's a lot of work there as well. So you talked a little bit about the regulatory side. Can you talk more about the institutional business development side? First off, finding a partner like VanEck, but also, getting all the pieces in place in order to make something like this possible.
Yeah. So yeah, I kind of have a 30,000 foot view of this, so I'm not as in the weeds as like a Thomas or something, but I'm sure we'll have Thomas. Should have Thomas on here at some point too. But yeah, it's like you really need. This is the first of its kind, and so um, really need a forward-looking partner to be willing to go through the effort of like. There's a lot of questions when it comes to um, not only staking in ETFs and ETPs, but liquid staking as well. And so we were super fortunate to find out that like VanEck was excited about this deal and willing to go through the work to get the S1 together. And this is kind of just the starting point of there's probably going to be some back and forth, which is pretty standard for all ETPs. And you know, super excited to work with them closer on answering a lot of those questions. But yeah, that's kind of just scratching the surface. There is like if if you want a JitoSOL ATP, you need to hold those assets somewhere. These issuers aren't just going to hold it on a ledger or like a browser wallet. They need a legit custodian. So you need to make sure that the custodian has support for this. Ideally, there's like mint burn inside the custodian as well, so they can kind of stay within the walled garden, like the secure walled garden of these like custodians to mint and burn JitoSOL. Um, there's a lot of work on like pricing and indexing and liquidity, and I've seen a lot of like JitoSOL sex listings recently from like OKX, Bullish, Gemini, um, Coinbase, and a few others that I'm probably forgetting that really kind of pave the way for setting up pricing there. There's a lot of data that needs to be collected on the depth of liquidity, and like I could just keep going on and on, but there's a lot of things going on behind the scenes to make this a reality, from the VanEck and the custodians and the centralized exchanges and the Jito Foundation and Jito Labs.
Yeah, Thomas is very good at his job. Is one of the things I'm
Yeah.
reminded of. But yeah, to that end, actually, this obviously it's fun to take a victory lap. It's fun when we get a bright line headline like this, but I think there's a lot more work to do. You mentioned that this unlocks some interesting trade potential for certain players. I'm curious where you think the next push is going to come in terms of Jito really helping to bring these assets to an institutional audience and getting this type of yield and this type of asset into the hands of institutional capital allocators. What are we looking at next? What is the next big exciting thing?
Yeah. I think that we really have to zoom out, and we've been doing this a lot with a lot of the institutions and partners that we're talking to, both myself and then like Brian and Thomas at the Jito Foundation. But you really have to tell the Solana story and get people excited about that. And so we've been doing a lot of education and like kind of telling the story to all the different parties to get them really excited about Solana, and that will definitely continue. Um, you know, JitoSOL is a liquid staking token on Solana. If people want to buy it, they need to be excited about Solana as well. And so, crafting that story and that narrative and telling that is something that will continue. And yeah, hopefully, other issuers kind of follow on board and do something similar with JitoSOL. I think that um, we haven't seen any like 100% staked ETFs or 100% LST ETFs come out yet. And it's ultimately like the best product for users. It will give them the highest yield. So I expect to see some others follow on. And that's pretty cool to see.
Yeah, 7% yield versus a product that doesn't have 7% yield. Ideally, we'll see where that goes. But Lucas, really appreciate your time. Fun to have you on for something like this. But you should probably get back to work on BAM.
Job's not finished.
That's right. One more hard quarter. Really
Yeah.
appreciate it, Lucas.